What is a scary or horrifying fact that shouldn't be true, but is? Please like and subscribe to support this channel. Anyone can have a child. We have tests for driving cars, you have to have certain qualifications for multiple professions, and yet there are absolutely no tests, checks, exams, nothing to make sure you're suitable to raise a human being before you bring a thinking, feeling person into the world. Of course, I don't know what the hell such a test would look like, but the existence of abused children who grow up into messed up people who may or may not perpetuate such abuse is just sad. Every single year, there are thousands of people in the US alone who disappear. Most of them show up again, usually the next day, but sometimes a few days, a few weeks, or even a few months later. However, out of these thousands of people, there are roughly 150 people, every single year, who disappear and simply never appear again. Nobody knows what has happened to those people. They might be dead, they might not be, we simply don't know. As I write this post, millions of Uyghurs in rural China are being tortured and killed by the world's second most influential government, and not one country has had the moral character to take action. At some point in the future, our descendants will ask why so many people were allowed to be treated so inhumanely for so long. The only real response will be, we didn't want our supply of cheap stuff to be cut off. Absolute cowardice. The human race will never overcome its sense of tribalism and inherent selfishness to the point of destroying ourselves. And it's not entirely our fault. We simply did not evolve with the means to cope with how many different people are on the planet. The way our society has come to be will never allow us to band together to stop our self-destructive behavior before we either all kill ourselves in war, or make our planet uninhabitable for us. The largest threat to humanity isn't some cosmic event, not in the near future anyway, it's ourselves. But we mostly all turn a blind eye to it. No one talks about the human condition being the problem for humanity itself. Everyone's reality is their own. I'm the villain in someone else's story, but I certainly don't view myself that way. I try to be a good person in general, as most people do. However, not all truths are the same for everyone. The low-hanging fruit would be to point the finger at religion, but that's not entirely fair. Think about how many different cultures are out there. Think about how each of those cultures hold different values on certain things. Morality, customs, traditions, etc. Try to think of yourself being raised in the most opposite culture you can think of. Take your current moral compass and try to think about it from their perspective. If you're a US leftist, really try to put yourself in a riggist shoes. You likely can't without getting angry or at least upset. Sure, I know they were raised around that, but why can't they see that X isn't okay? The same reason you can't see it as ever being okay. We've allowed our comfortable, convenient life take precedent and pretty much control us. We *like* the lives we have. We love the convenience of it no matter the cost. Because we really don't like to think about the human cost of our new phones, cheap clothes, cheap food, easily accessible anything, etc. It's uncomfortable for us, and because of that nothing will change in a meaningful way anytime soon. And it's likely already too late. Some monks used to endure a spiritual practice whereby they eliminated all their body fat through diet and exercise, ate wood lacquer tea to kill off internal bacteria, then sealed themselves in a tomb holding a string attached to a bell. A year after the bell stopped ringing, the tomb was opened, and if the monk's body was found to be uncorrupted, they were revered as a saint. If not, they were reburied. The process took years, and as they continued, the monks required more and more help from their brothers until they entered the tomb. And the whole time you'd hear bells ringing from the nearby tombs as the monks inside slowly wound down the last days of their lives, voluntarily poisoned, starved, and buried alive for a chance at sainthood. The Amazon forest has a huge gap of virgin forest between Brazil and other countries, places kilometers away from the nearest cities. The Brazilian Institute for Native Indians, FUNAI, has got agents overlooking tribes, and they take flights over the forest and always end up spotting huts, fire pits, and bow and arrow armed men. There are plenty of unknown tribes hiding somewhere in that huge forest. People never contacted by civilization. The fun fact is even the Institute agents have no idea of number, types, and tribes they're inside. Can't track down, account, or detect their genealogy. Amazon forest is a complex and humid place. You can hide a family of elephants there inside and you won't see it from the sky. 1. If you are a healthy 20-year-old, you have around ***2860** weeks before you die. just 2,860 Sundays. 2. The average person will be less successful than they think. 3. About 153,000 people die on your birthday. 4. Seals have been known to rape penguins. 5. If you took all of the world's spiders and let them out in the Netherlands, they would consume the country's population in 3 days. 6. 1 in 50 of us is walking around with a brain aneurysm. It just hasn't ruptured. 7. The Colombian serial killer Pedro Alonso Lopez, who is known as the Monster of the Andes, raped and murdered over 300 girls from Ecuador, Peru, and Colombia. However, after he was caught and imprisoned for 18 years, he was put in a psychiatric hospital. There he was reviewed, declared to be sane, and was set free, in spite of his blatant avowal that he fully intends to kill again. Ever since his release in 1998, nobody knows where he is or what he's doing. Dylan Klebold, one of the killers of the Columbine massacre, attended the school's prom 3 nights before the shooting. When he got home, he was talking to his mom and showed her the flask he'd brought to prom, explaining that they'd only drank a little bit. He told her, "I just wanted you to know you can trust me." It's so chilling that he could say that and less than 72 hours later participate in the killing of 13 other people and himself. How dark the BTS of The Wizard of Oz is. In Judy Garland's Dorothy own words, they had us working days and nights on end. They'd give us pep-up pills to keep us on our feet long after we were exhausted. Then they'd take us to the studio hospital and knock us cold with sleeping pills, Mickey sprawled out on one bed and me on another. Then after 4 hours they'd wake us up and give us the pep-up pills again so we could work another 72 hours in a row. Half of the time we were hanging from the ceiling, but it became a way of life for us. Quote, "In Argentina we have no DNA bank and a barely functional fingerprint detection system. Even though we invented that bitch, also negligence by forensics is the norm." What does this mean? In Argentina, if you kill someone you don't like, but the cops never suspect you, you'll never ever be remotely close to being busted. In fact, anyone could get away with murdering a stranger at any time without previous preparation. And if they somehow catch you red-handed? A life sentence is 35 years here with parole every couple of years. And there's a law that says that by every 2 people that get incarcerated, 1 must be freed, so there's always the chance you'll get randomly freed. Also, the average time a killer does here is between 10 and 20 years. The fact that we don't murder each other as much means anarchy could possibly work, I guess. There is a parasite that will eat your brain. It's called Naegleria fowleri, and it lives in warm water lakes in the sand and silt in the shallows. It will swim up your nose and proceed to eat your neurons in your brain. Usually symptoms occur around 4 hours after infection and include headache, sensitivity to light and nausea. If you experience any of these after swimming in a lake, you need to go to the hospital ASAP. If undiagnosed, you'll be dead within 24 hours. To diagnose it, you'll have to get a spinal tap and pray the tech working knows what to look for. In the United States, it's still common for newborn baby boys to be taken into an operating room, tied down into a special restraining device, and have the end of their penis ripped apart and then cut off, without any anesthesia. They are literally operated on cold. In spite of the babies screaming and the fact that some of them hyperventilate or empty their bowels due to the pain, some of the people responsible for conditioning the practice maintain the idea that they can't feel it, or that it's just a little snip of skin, which is cognitive dissonance on a level that defies belief. Some babies even bleed to death as a result of it, rendered only a statistic, a footnote. The baby has part of its sexual organ disabled years before the age of sexual maturity and will never know what natural sex feels like. There is almost never any medical need for this, and it continues only because it makes the hospital bonus money, and because of cultural conditioning. Many people who have been the victim of this surgery go on to have it done to their own children. You might feel like the healthiest person in the world and yet still randomly die in your sleep. Sudden arrhythmic death syndrome is just one example. There are tons of small obstructions and irregularities that your heart could be suffering from that go completely unnoticed by you, your friends, and your doctors. You might be at an increased risk of just passing on when you go to bed tonight, and no one would even suspect as much until you actually died. 1 in 5 Americans are suffering through a mental illness with no help. ASO, here's a not fun story I read about a girl in 2005. I think it was this year, suffered from anorexia, an eating disorder. This caused Heer to attempt suicide 3 times. When Heer's father begged the insurance company for a therapist, the company said no, citing, there would have to be a larger cause of harm to the person or to someone else, paraphrased. This essentially means, she would have to attempt suicide again or hurt someone. It was only after this story was leaked did the insurance company give the girl a therapist. The final moments of Andreas Prodromou, one of the flight attendants on Helios 522 that crashed in Greece in 2005. The pilots failed to flip a switch on the plane that would allow the plane to pressurize itself, not noticing it was switched to manual rather than auto. During the flight, the pressure in the cabin dropped, meaning the passengers and crew were slowly being drained of oxygen, and they soon lost consciousness. Andreas Prodromou managed to find a backup supply of oxygen, and even though he was suffering from hypoxia too, for a while he was the only one conscious as everyone was passed out and slowly dying around him. As he held a UK pilot's license, he entered the cockpit and sat down in the empty captain's seat. I am not sure why the captain left his seat, in what investigators believe was an attempt to save the plane, but unfortunately his training was not enough, as he was only trained to fly small planes, not Boeing 737s like the accident flight. He also called Mayday 5 times into the radio, but because it was tuned to the wrong airport, nobody could hear him. Soon after he entered the cockpit, the plane ran out of fuel, and the engines flamed out, so even if he could have flown the 737, there still was nothing he could have done. The plane crashed into the hills outside Athens, killing all on board. Being the only one conscious whilst your colleagues and passengers die around you, not knowing what's going on, and trying to help but not being able to do anything is just nightmare fuel to me. The Uyghur population of China is under 24-hour surveillance and are regularly scooped up and dropped into labor camps in the middle of the night. They are the victims of some serious atrocities, or what one might consider the usual suspects for trying to wipe out an entire diaspora, like forced abortions and sterilization. If that wasn't bad enough, they found evidence that these people were being used to harvest their hair for wig-el. If that wasn't bad enough, they also found evidence these folks were being used for harvesting their orga-ml. Lastly, they also go after Child 090, unimaginable. Something is eating the Milky Way galaxy. No, it isn't the plot for a Star Trek episode, it's really happening. In 2009, researchers found a cluster of galaxies moving at an extraordinary speed towards a small patch of sky between the constellations of Centaurus and Vela. Some unknown force is tearing away chunks of the galaxy, and astronomers still have no clue what exactly is causing it. It's been named dark flow. There is something big out there, far bigger than anything in our known universe. Such a behemoth would impose a kind of tilt on the universe, causing matter to move in one particular direction, as observations of the dark flow suggest. Could be anything, up to and including another universe. The majority of parasitic infections, or at least a substantial minority, depending on the type of parasite, are asymptomatic. Meaning that you could have worms in your body right now, and have no clue. Now for the good news. Your body is actually pretty good at getting rid of parasitic infections on its own. Additionally, you can cure most infestations with coconut. I successfully got rid of Giardia using nothing but a tablespoon of coconut oil and a cup of hot chocolate every morning for a few weeks. Closing parenthesis. Go into your calendar app. Scroll 150 or so years into the future. You will not see those days. Those birthdays for your friends and family that repeat? Yeah, those won't matter anymore. Now, you might be thinking, but with modern medicine I might live that long. But no, you almost certainly will not. If you want to contemplate your own mortality, open your app, and find some random Wednesday in June of 2185. And think of all the things that will happen that day, that you won't be seeing. Any one of us at literally any point can die from so many things out there that we have absolutely zero control over and can do absolutely nothing about. And X200b. Just look at a gamma-ray burst for example. It travels at the speed of light and it would hit us all with a deadly dose of radiation that would kill over 99% of this planet's lifeforms. And X200b. Since it travels at light speed, there is absolutely no way to know in advance about it, only after it has happened. In fact, it might have happened just now, and since it's gamma radiation, there are going to be very few people who will be sheltered from the dose when it happens. Not that it would matter because it would simply nuke all of our food sources. The _oubliette_ French, or the _forgotten room is translated in English. In medieval times, people would be descended into these rooms which were like 35 feet deep below the ground as punishment. They were narrow, funnel-shaped, with the only way in or out being through a trapdoor on the roof, through which they are lowered down in the first place. Kings and lords would torture people by keeping them in the oubliette because these rooms would be so narrow there would be no space to sit or even turn. These prisoners would be left there to starve, while standing 24 hours and 7 days a week, to their death, sometimes among the bones and human wastes of the inmates who had died before them. The only light, if there was any, would come from the trapdoor on the roof. There would be absolutely no chance of escape as it was impossible to climb up the walls of the narrow passage. These were designed to inflict tremendous psychological torture on the prisoner, often leading them into delirium. Absolute horror as to what we are capable of doing to our fellow human beings. Khalid el-Masri is a German and Lebanese citizen who was mistakenly abducted by the Macedonian police in 2003, and handed over to the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. While in CIA custody, he was flown to Afghanistan, where he was held at a black site and routinely interrogated, beaten, strip-searched, sodomized, and subjected to other cruel forms of inhumane and degrading treatment and torture. After el-Masri held hunger strikes, and was detained for 4 months in the salt pit, the CIA finally admitted his arrest and torture were a mistake and released him. He is believed to be among an estimated 3,000 detainees whom the CIA abducted from 2001 to 2005. In May 2004, the U.S. ambassador to Germany, Daniel R. Coates, convinced the German Interior Minister, Otto Schily, not to press charges or to reveal the program. El-Masri filed suit against the CIA for his arrest, extraordinary rendition and torture. In 2006, his suit El-Masri v. Tenet, in which he was represented by the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, was dismissed by the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia, based on the U.S. government's claiming the state secrets privilege. The ACLU said the Bush administration attempted to shield its abuses by invoking this privilege. The case was also dismissed by the Appeals Court for the Fourth Circuit, and in December 2007, the United States Supreme Court declined to hear the case. On 13 December 2012, El-Masri won an Article 34 case at the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. The court determined he had been tortured while held by CIA agents and ruled that Macedonia was responsible for abusing him while in the country, and knowingly transferring him to the CIA when torture was a possibility. It awarded him compensation, greater than, which was fuck all! The European Court condemned nations for collaborating with the United States in these secret programs.